A few days ago, I found out that I would be introducing the governor this morning. So I think I may just skip the mayor thing and go for governor. It is now my honor to introduce a great supporter of junior achievement, the governor of this great state of Utah, Governor Gary Herbert.
Well, thank you, Ruth. I'm not worried about a lot of people running against me, but I'm worried about Ruth. It's great to be with you. As always, this is our 27th breakfast with Junior Achievement. We've had 75,000 students that have been served through this program, and about 5,000 different programs with volunteers involved in this effort. So again, we look to you as the movers and shakers really of Utah. The board, as you've stood up, certainly is true. All of you who are contributing to making a great success. So my first priority is to tell you thank you for what you're doing and how you're doing it. And we see the outcomes of this effort. When we see the presentations, hear the presentations from these young people, I think we all can feel pretty good about the future. Our future is bright indeed with these people who are learning and taking that learning on to new levels, and it will be the movers and shakers of society here this next generation. So thank you for all that you're doing. I'm honored to be here with the Lieutenant Governor. And appreciate the good work. I found out yesterday that what an athlete he is. And we had a little made-for-television golf tournament. And I won't tell you the outcome, because you want to on Rod Zundel. I'll put a plug in for his golf program. And anyway, it was great to be with the Lieutenant Governor. I appreciate the good work he's doing. He's an entrepreneur in his own right, and really understands how the free market system works. I want to recognize Spencer Eccles, too. I'm surrounded by Spencers. Have you noticed that? And Spencer comes from a varied background, but particularly in business, and has done just an excellent job working with me for 5 years, running our GoEd office and really producing outstanding results in our state as we really are leading the nation in economic recovery and expansion, and we've gravitated to now the fourth most diverse economy in America. And when you think about Utah, about 3 million people here nestled in the Rocky Mountains here, no coastal cities, the fact that we are so diverse now, again, leads us to understand and believe why our future of Utah is very bright. So appreciate Spence. As some of you know, he's going to be retiring from this position, going on to other opportunities in the marketplace. But I certainly want to pay tribute to Spence Eccles for his good work and running our GoEd office. All of you are special to me, but as I look in the audience, I see my young son, Brad, here. Hey, Brad, how you doing, buddy? I don't get to see all my family as much as I'd like to, so it's good to see Brad here. He works for Zions Bank and just completed his executive MBA program. So another mover and shaker on his way, I think. Let me just mention a couple of things that might be of import. I appreciate the fact that Ryan talked about being a CEO is hard work. It takes hard work and dedication. Fred's working at breakfast here, checking around the world with the new technology in his iPad. Our two young ladies here have been checking their iPhones here, sending text messages. I appreciate seeing pad and pen still being utilized here, though. So the old ways are still germane in some ways. But it does show you that, things are changing. There's new opportunities and new things that we ought to be concerned about as we prepare our young people. It really amounts to two things. We in government have a role to play, not much, a small but effective role. And that really is creating an environment where the entrepreneur, the risk taker, the wealth creators can participate and find niches in the marketplace, develop products, goods, and services that are beneficial to the people. If they're not beneficial to the people, by the way, they won't buy them. So sometimes we get confused out there in the marketplace. You'll hear people talk about corporate greed, some kind of a selfish motivation, when in fact what happens when Fred provides medical device, people's lives are improved. Now his company is successful now worldwide because he's providing something that the public wants and needs, and doing it in ways that make our lives better, and doing it at more affordable, more access for people. Lives are improved. It's a wonderful system as we understand it. So what we do here in Utah is try to provide a very business-friendly environment. We do that by keeping our taxes low, make sure we're competitive, making sure that we have sensible regulations, not nonsensical regulations. Now you think, well, who would want nonsensical regulations? I don't think anybody does. But every time we pass a piece of legislation, it spawns regulations. One of them that you know about on the federal level is the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. I know one of Fred's big concerns is the impact it has on his own business because of unintended consequences. I think unintended. But the 2,700 pages of legislation now has spawned over 20,000 pages of regulations. It's hard to even comprehend. So again, government has a role to play, and we need to make sure that we understand that we need to empower the private sector, because that's where we get good products, services that is available to the masses at the most affordable prices. Now, that being said, we need to have a labor force that really works too, that understands how to work in this environment, in the real world. What I like about Junior Achievement is it does provide real world experience. People can actually not just read it in a textbook, but understand some of the subtleties, the nuances of, as Ryan said, it's hard work to be a CEO. And it's not just, flying in a corporate jet or meeting people. It really is, there's roll up your sleeves, hard work that's involved, commitment, dedication, determination. Now, I was thinking about this morning on the way in. I used to play a lot of baseball. And I remember my first introduction to baseball was in first grade. And I didn't know a lot about baseball, but I went to the source of the time, which was the encyclopedia. Anybody know what an encyclopedia is anymore? ENCYCLOPEDIA. I learned that from Disney, the song. Anyway, I went to the B edition of the encyclopedia and learned about Abner Doubleday, who was founder of baseball. At least we believe that. We have in Cooperstown that situation. They played a primitive form of baseball called rounders, and he perfected that game, and it became very popular. It became the national pastime. So I learned a little bit about the history by reading the books, and I learned what the rules were. But I didn't quite understand baseball till I actually got out and started to play baseball. And on my way in, I just was thinking of what are some of the things that I learned in baseball. I played what was called the hot corner. Who knows what the hot corner is? Third base. We got some baseball people here. I saw where sometimes there was a little chin music that was played. What's chin music?
Brush by pitch.
Brush by pitch, high and tight. Crowd in the plate. Pitcher gives him a little chin music. Sometimes you'd see a Texas League single. What's that? Yeah, a little bloop single, not a line drive, not a blue darter, but a bloop single. If somebody's rattling the fences, what are they doing? Hitting the long ball. They're hitting it out there deep. Left center, right center, hitting the long ball. What's an automatic strike? Happens on a 3-0 pitch. You watch the baseball on television, 3-0 pitch. The next pitch is an automatic strike. 80% of the time they'll throw a pitch because why? The batter's taking. He's not going to swing. 3-0 pitch. That's a little subtlety of baseball. Squeeze play. Who knows what a squeeze play is? Suicide squeeze. Okay, well, there's a bunt, and then there's a squeeze. The squeeze is when you bunt when there's a person on third base, and you squeeze them in. He steals home, and the batter bunts, and you squeeze him in before they can throw him out at home plate. Hit the cutoff man. What's the cutoff man? Short, second. Depends. Could be first base, could be third baseman. It depends on where the throw is going to. But the outfielder's got to hit the cutoff man to set up the play, to hold the runners from advancing an extra base. What if you're caught in the hot box? Well, anyway, I could go on and on. There's just so many. Can of corn. Who knows what a can of corn is? Can of... Yeah. That's right. You get the prize for getting the most correct answers. Well, anyway, it's interesting. I mean, you don't find those in the dictionary or in the encyclopedia. You learn those things from actually being in the real world and playing baseball. And it makes you a better baseball player. You understand the lingo, you understand what these mean, what the subtleties are in playing the baseball. You won't get it just from reading the encyclopedia or searching the internet. Maybe there's a lingo place now for on the internet, but those things I learned from playing baseball. I also learned disappointment in playing baseball. I learned success. I was fairly good at it. I had a chance, a little known by most people, that I tried out for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the disappointment came when they said, "We'll call you, don't call us." And but I enjoyed playing baseball. But I use it just as an analogy of how the difference between what we study and what the real world application is. I know Fred and many of you CEOs here would say, you know, what I learned in school, what I learned in my MBA program, and how we actually have to function in the real world, or sometimes don't line up exactly. I was at a school not too long ago with some high school students, very bright, advanced placement young people. And they had this idea of putting solar panels on the school. You know, the idea was solar panels, green, energy, less CO2. And I said, well, tell me why you want to do that. What's your motivation? And they said, that's going to be cheaper, and it will be less pollution. Okay, good motivation. Now, act like I'm the school board. Tell me how you're going to sell me on that if I'm the one that has to make the decision. You've got a good idea. How do you sell me as a member of the school board on that? And we talked about what is the break even? How much do you have to expend up front, and how long does it take for you to break even? Because of what you've talked about, so-called savings of solar panels compared to conventional gas forced air heat, which they have in their school today. And we talked about, and they came up with the answer that was about 10 years, 10, 11 years for the break even when you start getting a net gain. Well, how are you going to pay for that? And we talked about maybe with the savings you could actually bond against it. What about recapitalization rates? How are you going to capitalize this going forward when this system wears out and you've got to replace it with a new system? And what is the overall cost to the benefit? Well, as we had a great opportunity to exchange that discussion, you know, the real world applications of how you actually will go out there and convince a school board, principal, superintendent, the business community that this is really a good place to put your money. Well, that's part of what we're talking about here with Junior Achievement. And I'm sure we don't have to convince you that this is a great place to put your money, to put your time and your effort and your resources, because we see the outcomes that we're getting from this great program. We're given real world experience where people can actually do and be a mayor of a city, where you can actually be the CEO of a company. You understand, as which Fred and I were talking about, how do you balance the budget, for heaven's sake? And if you can't do that, how can you run a business? We certainly don't get good examples, particularly for some of our government entities, particularly in Washington, D.C., about living within our means and balancing budgets, not spending more than we take in, and not having unnecessary debt. So we need to look to the private sector, who really has to do that, because you do not have a bottomless pit of taxpayers' dollars to prop you up with your failures. Again, this is a great learning experience for our young people. So let me just conclude by saying again where I started, thank you for all that you're doing to make this a great success. We're having great opportunities in Utah to lead in ways we've never had an opportunity in the past. I do know I was in Washington last week and had great opportunities to talk to many on Capitol Hill in the White House. Spoke with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce back there as we named as one of the best enterprising states in America. At the same time, we were ranked #1 in the nation for small business and for small business opportunities. I think it's all because we're working together for that same kind of goal, that same kind of outcome. It's not just the governor's office. It's not just the economic development office. It's not just the chamber. It really is everybody working together. Last but not least, what we're trying to do now is with our education system to make sure we're preparing the labor force of tomorrow today. Fred talked about the need to have more STEM education. We need to have not only more STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, but we've got to have a better process to align our skills and what our young people are being taught and what they learn with the demands of the marketplace. And consequently, we're calling on a review of our counseling in our schools to make sure that counselors are in fact counseling. First as parents, but then we need to have counselors who can help with these young people as they assess their aptitudes and help give them direction into what their opportunities in life will be and where the good opportunities are, where they will feel good and comfortable about their opportunities in life to make a living, support themselves and their family. So you'll see a renewed emphasis on counseling as well as emphasis on STEM programs. I am a firm believer that we ought to find a niche in life that you're happy with, that pays your bills. I saw a little cartoon once. It was a little hobo on the side of the street, sitting on the curb, and all tattered and torn. He had a little tin cup, and he held it up to the sky, and the caption said underneath it, "Here's to the holidays, all 365 of them." So if you like what you're doing, every day's a holiday. We need to make sure that we provide economic opportunity for the rising generation to be the best they can be, to find a niche in the marketplace where they can be happy. And as they go to work, every day is a holiday. Thank you, Junior Achievement, for all you do to make our future bright. Thank you.